Good morning, family. We're going to get into this love and liberation meditation. Grand Rising. Good morning. Good morning, good morning. Grand Rising. Let's get into this stretch. In my mind, I'm playing music. Let's start with our singing bowl. Let's take some deep breaths. Find yourself in a seated position or laying flat on your back. To fill you. Good morning, Daddy. Good morning, Body Bloom. Good morning, family. Let's get into this stretch. Let's stand. Sun rises, let's rise, let's rise, let's rise, arms up, and a sudden salutation, and we reach up and we stretch, and we're receiving that energy, that vibration from the universe, and we exhale, come down, touch the mat, touch your calves, touch your ankle, bend your knee, whatever's comfortable. Let's come to a half fold, half bend. Let's extend the left leg back, the right leg back into a plank. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. Need a mat. Come down. Head on the mat. Half cobra, inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Let's come up into full cobra. Push up. Hold it here. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale, inhale, exhale. Come up to table. Come up to downward dog. Let's inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. walk up to our feet and down to our feet. Let's hang here. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Let's come up slowly to mountain. Inhale. All the way up. Let's stretch. Inhale. Exhale. Come down. Fold. Yes. Feel that stretch. Come up to half, come up to chair. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, come back down. Ooh. Hold your balance. We're in day 9. Day 9 of showing up to the mat, showing up for ourselves, showing up to have a practice, to honor our bodies. Let's come all the way up. Come all the way up. Let's move into a warrior poses. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, come down, fold forward, touch the mat. Just hang here for a moment. Feel that stretch. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. Let's turn our left foot out. Keep our right foot straight. Bend our knee over our big toe. And let's inhale, arms up to shoulders. Turn left. Try to look at your middle finger. A stern gaze, a firm gaze. Inhale. Exhale. Warrior 1. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Come up. Turn your foot forward. Inhale up. Exhale. Fold down. And come up. Turn your right foot. Left foot stay straight. Bend your right knee over your big toe. And inhale, arms go up to your shoulders. And we're looking to the right. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Come up. Turn your foot forward. Turn your foot together. Let's come back to mountain. Inhale up. Stretch. Arms down. Fold forward. Try to touch the mat. Inhale. Exhale. Come up half. Let's left leg back. Right leg back. Come back into plank. Knee on the mat. And come down. Head on the mat. Come up to half. Come down. rotate our hips. The opposite direction. Come to center and let's do cat-cow. Inhale. Exhale. Curving your back. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. One more. Exhale. Let's come into child's. Find your comfort. If you need an adjustment, you can grab your block, you put your head on it, whatever's comfortable for you. You can put your arms along your sides. Just rest here, setting an intention for what it is that you're needing today. How are you rising today? What are you giving yourself today? How will you move today? Seated. Grab our strap. Wrap around our feet. Sun is rising as we are rising. We are starting this day giving to ourselves before we give to anyone. Inhale. Come forward and stretch. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Release. Bend your right knee. Left arm around your right knee. Right arm behind your back. Let's look to the right and let's inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Release your leg. Left leg up. Right arm around your left knee. Left arm behind your back. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. For a deeper stretch, look over your shoulder. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Release the leg. Let's rotate our neck. The opposite direction. Gentle stretch. Let's take a deep breath. Inhale. And let's fall forward. Come forward. You can lay your head on your block. You want to be walking your hands out. And try to touch the mat. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Come back. Switch legs. Inhale. Exhale. Come forward. Walk it out. Go further. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Come up. Seated meditation, or you can lay in corpse pose. Who are you today? What will you achieve today? What is your intention for today? What are you giving yourself today? What are you giving others today? How will you love on you today? Y'all can be in corpse. And we're going to continue reading All for Love. We are on page 94. From Bell Hooks, All for Love. Philosopher Cornel West states that a politics of conversion restores our sense of hope, calling attention to the pervasive nihilism in our society. He reminds us nihilism is not overcome by arguments or analyses. It is tamed by love and care. Any disease of the soul must be conquered by a turning of one's soul. This turning is done through one's own affirmation of one's worth, an affirmation fueled by the concern of others. In an attempt to ward off life-threatening despair, more and more individuals are turning toward a love ethic. Signs that this conversion is taking place abound in our culture. It's reassuring when masses of people read literature like Thomas More's Care of the Soul, a work that invites us to reevaluate the values that undergird our lives and make choices that affirm our interconnectedness with others. Embracing a love ethic means that we utilize all the dimensions of love: care, commitment, trust, responsibility, respect, and knowledge in our everyday lives. We can successfully do this only by cultivating awareness. Being aware enables us to critically examine our actions, to see what is needed so that we can give care, be responsible, show respect, and indicate a willingness to learn. Understanding knowledge as an essential element of love is vital because we are daily bombarded with messages that tell us love is about mystery, about that which cannot be known. We see movies in which people are represented as being in love, who never talk with one another, who fall into bed without ever discussing their bodies, their sexual needs, their dislikes and likes. Indeed, the message received from the mass media is that knowledge makes love less compelling, that it is ignorance that gives love its erotic and transgressive edge. These messages are often brought to us by profiteering producers who have no clue about the art of loving, who substitute their mystified visions because they do not really know how to genuinely portray loving interaction. Were we collectively to demand that our mass media portray images that reflect love's reality, it would happen. This change would radically alter our culture. The mass media dwells on and perpetuates an ethic of domination and violence because our image makers have more intimate knowledge of these realities than they have with realities of love. I'm sorry, I got distracted because as I was reading that, I was thinking about love, and one of the greatest acts of love is actually leaving a relationship. That to me is like the ultimate act of self-love when you choose yourself. If you're in a situation or a relationship that's unhealthy and doesn't serve and is painful, that is to me the ultimate act of love, is to say, hasta aquí, I'm done, I'm out, I choose me. Yeah. We all know what violence looks like. All scholarship in the field of cultural studies focusing on a critical analysis of the mass media, whether pro or con, indicates that images of violence, particularly those that involve action and gore, capture the attention of viewers more than still, peaceful images. The small groups of people who produce most of the images we see in this culture have heretofore shown no interest in learning how to represent images of love in ways that will capture and stir our cultural imagination and hold our attention. If the work they did was informed by a love ethic, the image, if the work they did was informed by a love ethic, they would consider it important to think critically about the images they create. And that would mean thinking about the impact of these images, the ways they shape culture and inform how we think and act in everyday life. If familiar with love's terrain, they would hire consultants who would provide the necessary insight. Even though some individual scholars try to tell us there is no direct connection between images of violence and the violence confronting us in our lives, the common sense truth remains. We are all affected by the images we consume and by the state of mind we are in when watching them. I'm being pulled out again. So this morning I caught a glimpse of a image, and it was Cardi B and Offset. And in the image, I didn't search, I didn't look for receipts, and I didn't want to go into that fucking dark hole of trying to find all the chisme. But what I read was that Cardi posted something where she talked about abusing Offset and then deleted it immediately, so I didn't see it. If someone finds it and you want to DM it, I'll look at it. But one of the things I was thinking about, or as we read this, is how we look at a relationship like that as relations. Some of us, not all of us, some folks look at that relationship as relationship goals. And I think that shit is highly problematic, because what we're seeing as we sit back, right, as what we're witnessing is that there's a lot of abuse, a lot of pain, a lot of trauma in that relationship. And why would that be relationship goals? What I'm concerned about are the relationship goals, the gifts that they give one another, because then that shit is fucking scary. Because what you're not seeing is the day in and day out, the infidelity, the disrespect, the demoralizing, demeaning. We don't know because we don't live there. We only know because of how she comes out in the world and shares her private life, her public life, and how he doesn't really say anything. And so, I don't know, I think we need to start to be very careful about what it is that we're consuming and seeing as this ideal love. Like, that's not a love I want. That's not a love I want. And I'll leave that there. Even though some individual scholars try to tell us there is no direct connection between images of violence and the violence confronting us in our lives, the common sense truth remains. We are all affected by the images we consume and by the state of mind we are in when watching them. If consumers want to be entertained, and the images shown us as entertaining are images of violent dehumanization, it makes sense that these acts become more acceptable in our daily lives, and that we become less likely to respond to them with moral outrage or concern. Were we all seeing more images of loving human interaction, it would undoubtedly have a positive impact on our lives. And the other shit I want to say about that is that my daughter and I were having a conversation just yesterday where Nikki was going off on the fact that Cardi would come for any woman that Offset was sleeping with
and threatening them or whatever that is, because it's all hearsay, right? We have no evidence. I have no evidence. I have no facts. I'm pretty much just sharing just our conversation. And she's saying, she's out here threatening the lives or, wanting to fight these women he's cheating on her with, when she should be taking it to him, to the source. But it's like the message here is like what we are idolizing is this like dehumanization and this violence, this violent love. Something to think about, right? Because many of us come from this culture and experience of violence. We know that violence where, we've seen our mothers get hit and then our fathers apologize, or the men in their lives apologize, but I love you, but baby, I love you. Like, we know that. We know toxicity. I digress. Were we all seeing more images of loving human interaction, it would undoubtedly have a positive impact on our lives. We cannot talk about changing the types of images offered us in the mass media without acknowledging the extent to which the vast majority of the images we see are created We cannot talk about changing the types of images offered us in the mass media without acknowledging the extent to which the vast majority of the images we see are created from a patriarchal standpoint. These images will not change until patriarchal thinking and perspectives change. Individual women and men who do not see themselves as victims of patriarchal power find it difficult to take seriously the need to challenge and change patriarchal thinking. But re-education is always possible. Masses of people are negatively affected by patriarchal institutions, and most specifically by male domination. Since individuals committed to advancing patriarchy are producing most of the images we see, they have an investment in providing us with representations that reflect their values and the social institutions they wish to uphold. Patriarchy, like any system of domination, for example, racism, relies on socializing everyone to believe that in all human relations there is an inferior and superior party. One person is strong and the other weak, and that it is therefore natural for the powerful to rule over the powerless. To those who support patriarchal thinking, maintaining power and control is acceptable by whatever means. Naturally, anyone socialized to think this way would be more interested in and stimulated by scenes of domination and violence rather than by scenes of love and care. Yet, they need a consumer audience to whom they can sell their product. Therein lies our power to demand change. While the contemporary feminist movement has done much to intervene with this kind of thinking, challenging and changing it, and by so doing, offering women and men a chance to lead more fulfilling lives, patriarchal thinking is still the norm for those in power. This does not mean we do not have the right to demand change. We have power as consumers. We can exercise that power all the time by not choosing to invest time, energy, or funds to support the production and dissemination of mass media images that do not reflect life-enhancing values. You heard? We can exercise the power all the time by not choosing to invest our time, energy, or funds to support the production and dissemination of mass media images that don't reflect life-enhancing values. They're not lifting us. They're not loving us. They're not giving us shit. Nothing. They're not giving us shit. We're seeing all these relationships as relationship goals, and we're like, that shit is fucking toxic. I don't want that. I don't want that. I don't want that. I want something that enhances my values, right? That do not reflect life-enhancing values and that undermine a love ethic. Where is the fucking love ethic? Yo, I love this idea. I'm fascinated by this idea of love ethic. Do share the dream. I'll read it. I'm fascinated by this idea of a love ethic. Like living is like a code of ethics, right? So if you were to write, that's homework, right? If you were to write your love ethic, my love looks like, what is that love ethic? What you will tolerate, what you will accept, what you are calling forth, what you are saying you are bringing. Because if you're bringing toxicity to a relationship, you cannot be surprised that you're going to receive a love that matches that. Like, why would you have something good if you're treating that partner like shit? Like, that shit that's not balanced. Somebody give me a time check. What time is it? Eastern Standard Time? I want to go till 8. What time do we have? 7:38. All right, somebody tell me when it's like 2 minutes left. Thank you. Because we're going to keep going. This is not meant to be an argument for censorship. Most of the evils in our world are not created by the mass media. For example, clearly the mass media does not create violence in the home. Domestic violence was widespread even when there was no television. But everyone knows that all forms of violence are glamorized and made to appear interesting and seductive by the mass media. The producers of these images could just as easily use the mass media to challenge and change violence. When images we see condone violence, whether they lead any of us to be more violent or not, they do affirm the notion that violence is an acceptable means of social control, and that it is fine for one individual or group to dominate another individual or group. Domination cannot exist in any social situation where love ethic prevails. Jung's insight that if the will to power is paramount, love will be lacking. It is important to remember. When love is present, the desire to dominate and exercise power cannot rule the day. All the great social movements for freedom and justice in our society have promoted a love ethic. A love of people, a love of our religion, a love for our rights, a love for our children, a love for Black people, a love for equality, right? A love ethic. Concern for the collective good of our nation, city, or neighbor, rooted in the values of love, makes us all seek to nurture and protect that good. We are all invested in nurturing and protecting our good, our collective. If public policy was created in the spirit of love, we would not have to worry about unemployment, homelessness, schools failing to teach children, or addiction. Were a love ethic informing all public policy in cities and towns, individuals would come together and map out programs that would affect the good of everyone. Melody Chavez's wonderful book, Altars in the Street, A Neighborhood Fights to Survive, tells a story of real people coming together across differences of race and class to improve their living environment. She speaks from the perspective of a white woman who moves with her family into a predominantly Black community as someone who embraces a love ethic. Melody joins her neighbors to create peace and love in their environment. Their work succeeds, but is undermined by the failure of support from public policy and city government. Concurrently, she also works to help prisoners on death row. Loving community in all its diversity, Melody states. Sometimes I think that I've been trying on death row and in my neighborhood to gain some control over the violence in my life. As a child, I was completely helpless in the face of violence. Her book shows the changes a love ethic can make even in the most troubled community. It also documents the tragic consequences to human life when terror and violence become the accepted norm. When small communities organize their lives around a love ethic, every aspect of daily life can be affirming for everyone. In all his prose, In all his prose work, Kentucky poet Wendell Berry writes eloquently about the positive values that exist in rural communities that embrace an ethic of communalism and the sharing of resources in the book Another Turn of the Crank. Berry exposes the extent to which the interests of big business lead to the destruction of rural communities, reminding us that destruction is fast becoming the norm in all types of communities. He encourages us to learn from the lives of folks who live in communities governed by a spirit of love and communalism. Sharing some of the values held by citizens of these communities, he writes, they are people who take and hold a generous and neighborly view of self-preservation. They do not believe that they can survive and flourish by the rule of dog eat dog. They do not believe that they can succeed by defeating or destroying or selling or using up everything by themselves. They doubt that good solutions can be produced by violence. They want to preserve the precious things of nature, of human culture, and pass them on to their children. They see that no commonwealth or community of interest can be defined by greed. They know that work ought to be necessary. It ought to be good. It ought to be satisfying and dignifying to the people who do it, and genuinely useful and pleasing to the people for whom it's done. I like living in small towns precisely because they are most often the places in our nation where basic principles underlying a love ethic exist and are the standards by which most people try to live their lives. Ache. In a small town where I live, now only some of the time, there is a spirit of neighborliness, of fellowship, care, and respect. These same values existed in the neighborhoods of the town in which I grew up, even though I spend most of my time in New York City. I live in a cooperative apartment building where we all know each other. We protect and nurture our collective well-being. We strive to make our home place a positive environment for everyone. We all agree that integrity and care enhance all our lives. We try to live by the principles of a love ethic, to live our lives based on the principles of a love ethic, showing care, respect, knowledge, integrity, and the will to cooperate. We have to be courageous. Learning how to face our fears is one way we embrace love. Our fear may not go away, but it will not stand in the way. Those of us who have already chosen to embrace a love ethic, allowing it to govern and inform how we think and act, know that when we let our light shine, we draw to us and are drawn to other bearers of light. We are not alone. I'm gonna close my thought on Cardi because I started talking about her and her relationship, but now I want to address her beautiful daughter. So here's the thing, family, and this is why we're invested, because unfortunately and fortunately, she has made her life so public that all of us have a say. We all have an opinion, and we all post what we feel, whether we think an image is beautiful or when we think some shit is fucked up. And what I think is fucked up, Cardi, is that your daughter is bearing witness to violence. I said it. Like it or not, your daughter is being exposed to violence. And so how can we move toward a love ethic? And even if she's protecting culture, the shit that's being published lives forever. The youngin will find it, will see it, and will be affected by it. We already are born in our DNA. We are born with this violence and this pain and this struggle. As mothers, as parents, our job is to protect our children. And so my prayer, Cardi, with all the love in my heart, is that you are protecting your little one. You're protecting your little one. I know you have a persona, right? You have a persona. But I do believe that these battles and these demons that we all fucking face, because none of us are exempt, that the armor we pick up is love. Thank you for saying that, mi amor. The cycle has to stop. Because that's what I was thinking as I was reading this fucking last part. And my daughter just said this to me last night. I broke the fucking cycle with her. And I'm not perfect, because I fucked her up too. She's going to have her own therapy, her own journey, her own fucking healing, right? It's intergenerational. So there's no way I could have avoided it. For as much as I tried to be loving and tried to be better, of course I fucked up. The fuck? I grew up in my ass was beat every fucking day. Violent. I fist fought people every fucking day. Like, I know what that is. But I made a choice to do better. We have to choose to do better. And that love ethic, I'm in love with that. Let's take a breath. Oh, hang on. I'm reading your dream, sleepy veggie, giving you advice to pray more. Oh, you do. We're not worrying about that. We're not worrying about that. You are not alone. You with 50 people right now. We are not alone. We're surrounded by love. You are doing the work, and that work needs to be done alone. Give me a time check, because I'm going to start this next. 7, greed. Chapter 7, greed. Simply love. I don't know if I have page 103. What time is it? Cool. We're going to go till 10 minutes. Let's do it. The fading away of greed and hatred is the foundation for liberation. The fading away of greed and hatred is the foundation for liberation. The fading away of greed and hatred is the foundation for liberation. Liberation is the sure heart's release, an understanding of the truth so powerful that there is no turning back from it. Sharon Salzberg. Although we live in close contact with neighbors, masses of people in our society feel alienated, cut off, alone. Isolation and loneliness are central causes of depression and despair. Yet they are the outcome of life in a culture where things matter more than people. Materialism creates a world of narcissism in which the focus of life is solely on acquisition and consumption. Yo, hold that word, narcissism. That's today's word, narcissism. A culture of narcissism is not a place where love can flourish. The emergence of the me culture is a direct response to our nation's failure to truly actualize the vision of democracy articulated in our Constitution and Bill of Rights. Oh my God, what the fuck? I'm obsessed with the Constitution and Bill of Rights. I'm teaching my senior citizens and we're rewriting our Constitution and Bill of Rights. And so that's fucking crazy. Yo, the universe. What the fuck was I saying? The emergence of the me culture is a direct response to our nation's failure to truly actualize the vision of democracy articulated in our Constitution and Bill of Rights. Left alone in the me culture, we consume and consume with no thoughts for others. Greed and exploitation become the norm. When an ethic of domination prevails, they bring in their wake alienation and lovelessness. Intense spiritual and emotional lack in our lives is the perfect breeding ground for material greed and overconsumption. In a world without love, the passion to connect can be replaced by the passion to possess. One more time. Intense spiritual and emotional lack in our lives is the perfect breeding ground for material greed and consumption. In a world without love, the passion to connect can be replaced by the passion to possess. While emotional needs are difficult and often are impossible to satisfy, material desires are easier to fulfill. Our nation fell into the trap of pathological narcissism in the wake of wars that brought economic bounty while undermining the vision of freedom and justice essential to sustaining democracy. Nowadays, we live in a world where poor teenagers are willing to maim and murder for a pair of tennis shoes or a designer coat. This is not a consequence of poverty. In dire situations of poverty at earlier times in our nation's history, it would have been unthinkable to the poor to murder someone for a luxury item. While it was common for individuals to steal or attack someone in the interests of acquiring resources, money, food, or something as simple as a winter coat to ward off the cold, there was no value system in place that made a life less important. While it was common for individuals to steal or attack someone in the interest of acquiring resources, money, food, or something as simple as a winter coat to ward off the cold, there was no value system in place that made a life less important than the material desire. Yo, I'm sorry. I feel like sometimes I'm being attacked by fucking flies. They get on my fucking nerves. Whether poor or rich, in the mid-50s, most citizens in our nation felt it was the best place in the world to live because it was a democracy, a place where human rights mattered. This sense of our nation's vision sustained its citizens and served as the catalyst empowering freedom struggles in our society. In the article Chicken Little, Cassandra and the Real Wolf, So Many Ways to Think About the Future, Donella Meadows describes the significance of a visionary standpoint. A vision articulates a future that someone deeply wants and does it so clearly and compellingly that it summons up the energy, agreement, sympathy, political will, creativity, resources, or whatever to make that vision happen. One more time. A vision articulates. So your vision, your dream, your mission, the thing that you want right now, the business you want to open, the dream, right? The vision articulates a future that someone deeply wants and does it so clearly and compellingly that it summons up the energy, agreement. Y'all need a new agreement. We need a new agreement. Sympathy, political will, creativity, resources, or whatever to make that vision happen. Ache. Our nation's active participation in global warfare called into question its commitment to democracy, both here at home and abroad. That vision was diminished in the wake of the Vietnam War. Prior to the war, hopeful vision of justice and love have been evoked by the civil rights struggle, the feminist movement, and sexual liberation. However, by the late 70s, after the failure of radical movements for social justice aimed at making the world a democratic, peaceful place where resources could be shared and a meaningful life could become a possibility for everyone, folks stopped talking about love. The loss of lives at home and abroad had created economic plenty while leaving in its wake devastation and loss. Americans were asked to sacrifice the vision of freedom, love, and justice and put in its place the worship of materialism and money. This vision of society upheld the need for imperialistic war and injustice. A great feeling of despair gripped our nation when the leaders who had led struggles for peace, justice, and love were assassinated. Psychologically, we were in despair even as economic booms opened up jobs for women and men from previously disenfranchised groups. Instead of looking for justice in the public world, individuals turned to their private lives, seeking a place of solace and escape. Yes. Initially, lots of folks turned inward to family and relationships to find again a sense of connection and stability. Coming face to face with rampant lovelessness in the home created an overwhelming sense of cultural brokenheartedness. Not only did individuals despair about their capacity to change the world, they began to feel enormous despair about their ability to make basic positive changes in the emotional fabric of their daily lives. Divorce rates were the primary indicators that marriage was not a safe haven, and mounting public awareness of the extent to which domestic violence and all manner of child abuse were widespread clearly revealed that the patriarchal family could not offer sanctuary. What time is it? Thank you. Confronted with a seemingly unmanageable emotional universe, some people embraced a new Protestant work ethic, convinced that a successful life would be measured by how much money one made and the goods one could buy with this money. The good life was no longer to be found in the community and connection. It was to be found in accumulation and the fulfillment of hedonistic, materialistic desire. In keeping with this shift in values from a people-oriented to a thing-oriented society, the rich and famous, particularly movie stars and singers, began to be seen as the only relevant cultural icons. Motherfuckers, this is what we're talking about. This is what we're talking about. Began to be seen as the only relevant cultural icons. Hell no, I'm not modeling that. I do not aspire to have that. What? That's not my ideal relationship. You know who my ideal relationship is? My mother and father. And that shit has not been easy. That shit has been abusive. That shit has been toxic. That shit has been painful. They've been together over 50 fucking years. Thank you for the time. They've been together 50 fucking years. And what they have done, what they have shown me is we do the work. It's not easy. The grass is not greener. There is not someone better. I'm committed to you. I'm committed to you. That has made all the difference. Gone were the visionary political leaders and activists. Suddenly it was no longer important to bring an ethical dimension to the work life. Making money was the goal, and by whatever means, widespread embrace of corruption undermined any chance that a love ethic would resurface and restore hope. By the late 70s, among privileged people, the worship of money was expressed by making corruption acceptable and the ostentatious parading of material luxury the norm. To many people, our nation's acceptance of corruption as the new order of the day began with unprecedented exposure of presidential dishonesty and the lack of ethical and moral behavior in the White House. It's like she wrote this shit yesterday. This lack of ethics was explained away by government officials linking support of big business to further imperialism with national security and dominance globally. This coincided neatly with the decline in the influence of institutionalized religion, which had previously provided moral guidance. Yes, can we talk about the guidance that we were receiving? The church and temple became places where a materialistic ethic was supported and rationalized. Among the poor and the other underclasses, the worship of money became most evident by the unprecedented increase in the street drug industry, one of the rare locations where capitalism worked well for a few individuals. Quick money, often large amounts made from drug sales, allowed the poor to satisfy the same material longings as the rich. While the desired objects might have differed, the satisfaction of acquisition and possession was the same. Greed was the order of the day, mirroring the dominant capitalist culture. A few individuals in poor communities prospered, while the vast majority suffered endless, unsatisfied cravings. Imagine a mother living in poverty who has always taught her children the difference between right and wrong, who has taught them to value being honest because she wants to provide them with a moral and ethical universe, who suddenly accepts a child selling drugs because it brings into the home financial resources for both necessary and unnecessary expenses. Her ethical values are eroded by the intensity of longing and lack. Hello. But she no longer sees herself as living at odds with the consumer culture she lives in. She has become connected, one with the culture of consumption, and driven by its demands. Love is not a topic she thinks about. Her life has been characterized by a lack of love. And we're going to leave it there. What? Let's talk about greed. Let's talk about greed. Greed and love, yo. Listen. How about that shit for 7 o'clock in the morning? What? Family. I am wishing you a fucking amazing day, yo. An amazing day. Let's close it out. Today I'm having a beautiful mother-daughter day. Let's inhale. Let's release all that, right? Let's release all that. We know it's there, but we can move differently, right? Let's allow the vibration to fill us. I'm so grateful for today, for that food we were just fed with. Our love ethic be others-centered. May what we want for ourselves be something that we absolutely want for those in our lives, those in the world. I'm wishing you so much peace. What I want for me, I want for you. And I pray you have a beautiful day, fam. Ache, amen, namaste, and so it is. Have a beautiful day, everyone. Be great. Peace.